Destiny's PvP has often been criticized and overhyped, regarded as one of the most successful ways to give individuals a great time in receiving or dealing death. Through its trials and tribulations, the grand arenas of the Moon, Mars, Earth, and beyond, players experience a first-person shooter that has established itself as a dominant workhorse, to be feared and enjoyed. However, Destiny's PvP has often been called unbalanced, easy, and oftentimes critiqued as too casual. Whether or not either side has validity has yet to be seen, but Destiny's dedicated PvP camp is now splintered into a multitude of varying groups, each with their own argument on how Destiny's PvP can be balanced, or if balance is even needed. With the launch of Trials of Osiris and its Crucible playlist counterpart Elimination, many believe Destiny is on the path to becoming one of the new esport titles, to be seen at either ESL or MLG events. Those who hold to such an opinion remain ever hopeful, showing that there is a large audience inside Destiny looking for more, hungry for a chance to play in front of crowds and compete for millions. However, this video is designed only to present the argument on one of the most pervasive and common issues being debated across the Destiny community. The argument will be broken down into two broad categories, with both sides being presented as valid points. The argument and the two categories are: the Thorn and the last word are overpowered, the for and against. What this video will not contain is a debate on other balancing issues or weapon complaints like shotguns, latency or dedicated servers, ranking or skill-based matchmaking, or any other PvP-related issues. If requested, I can go into further detail on any of these topics. In the meantime, I recommend you guys watch one of Bife's videos that explains a lot of the core problems with Destiny's current PvP, in which he explains pretty much everything that I believe is an issue, and I'll have a link in the description below. Now, before I get into it, I want to preface this by saying I'm going to attempt to deliver these arguments on both sides without bias, but that is largely impossible. I feel that I need to redirect anyone who's new to this channel or new to the overall debate of PvP balance to my video on the Queen Breaker's Bow, where I delivered an argument that was slightly overwhelming to some viewers. In that video, I asserted that the Queen Breaker was simply OP for several reasons. Mainly, I felt the weapon was just too easy to use. I tell you this so that you, as a viewer, can be informed and have an understanding on my own biases. Above all, I am a proponent for balance, and I wish to emphasize this point very clearly. I have only asked for PvP balances. I personally do not care about PvE or damage dealt to AI/computer-controlled opponents. Bungie did not address the AR nerf properly in PvE. They effectively took a weapon class out of the viable sphere it was originally in and made it one of the most subpar, if not the most subpar, for PvE. With that stated, any biases I present towards balances should only be considered with PvP and the future of PvP in mind. Along with that, I will have a link in the description of this video/script of my PvP stats, so everyone can see the hours I put into both feeling and dealing the awesome of the two weapons in question. I feel that this in no way should make my points any more valid than any presented before me, but it should show you that I have partaken considerably in the madness that is PvP. Now on to the actual argument. I'm going to start first with the Thorn and last word are overpowered. Strictly speaking, we must first define overpowered so we can properly address the argument supporting that said statement and if its validity even exists. The standard definition of overpowered is to simply defeat or overcome with superior strengths. Now, this is one of the definitions provided online, so in essence, weapons that are considered overpowered are superior to all other weapons, either in general or in that specific weapon classification. Strictly speaking, the immediate damage for both the last word and Thorn is 84, 91 with the immediate burn effect respectively. These handcannons also share a rate of fire with the Devil You Know and other handcannons in the category of 32 rate of fire. Does this make them overpowered? Not necessarily, but you can see where this argument is going. The Thorn is a 2 to 3 shot kill in any situation, unless recovery from, say, a Red Death or pickup is utilized. Now that's a pretty rare occasion. Firstly, a player must be running either of those two items, and while Red Death may be readily available to some, many choose to stay away from pulse rifles, as would be shown in an image later during this argument. The helmet perk or pickup recovers health is rare on helmets, and most players don't often utilize this or cannot find a viable helmet with this perk. So as it stands, the only way to survive a guaranteed death of 2 to a 3 shot Thorn is to take advantage of the Red Death or a Ram helmet, a melee that gives health back on a hit/kill, or finally, or pickup increases health recharge. Now that's extremely specific, and while chances are many will run a melee with health recharge, oftentimes finding a target to melee is out of reach before the burn will drop you. The last word has the potential of being a 2-shot due to its perk Last Word, which states bonus damage and stability, as well as extra precision damage when firing from the hip. In theory, this should only apply when firing from the hip without aiming down the sights. That elusive 112 hit should only occur when you do not ADS. But to the account of many in PvP, that just isn't the case. Now some say it's a hidden perk or that hipfire detection simply is not up to par. Either way, both weapons are a 2-shot in some situations. But damage values are not all that matters. Technically, the Timir's Lash / Ill Will variants can 2-shot opponents as well, right? Well, yes and no, depending largely on armor values of characters and perks utilized on the weapons or rerolled for. The strong difference is the rate of fire compared to the Thorn or Last Word. Timir's rate of fire is an abysmal 15, half of the value compared to the Thorn or Last Word. In its base mode, without damage increasing perks, it can 2-shot, but it typically will not. Listed above is a chart from Reddit user Mkerssive displaying primary kills from the Crucible from 507 to 607. As seen, the hand cannon class has risen steadily over the course of 1 month, either attributed to hand cannon rerolls allowing for the potential 2-shots, or the Thorn and Last Word becoming more prevalent is largely unknown, but the hand cannons are the dominant weapon class as of now. At this point, you may be asking, what about the re-rolling of the new 32 fire rate hand cannons? Surely the Fulcrum and the Red Hand variants can compete with proper perks. Of course they can. But neither has the range value or recoil compensation that the Thorn and Last Word boast off of standard. Largely, the Thorn and Last Word are best in class. They are the go-tos and considered abused by many. Of course, anyone would argue that the meta game of PvP will state that the fact that players will always use the best weapons possible to defeat their opponents, and no one can fault them for that. This argument is largely based upon the Thorn and Last Word simply dominating their weapon class. Should they be best in class? From a balancing perspective, it removes a weapon variety and customization found in other competitive first-person shooters. It also has a tendency to turn many away from attempting PvP without first obtaining one of these weapons. It's to be considered a weapon gap, not a skill gap, and that's the underlying problem. To finalize the points, the Thorn and Last Word are considered crutches by many who fall victim to them, and some of the best weapons in the game by those who utilize them. The counterpoint to the entire overpowered argument is that Destiny remains a unique experience due to its exotics and how vastly they are deployed in PvP. A majority of players will use a hand cannon of some type in PvP because they are considerably better than their counterparts. The ARs need no defense. They remain entirely useless due to the nerf we received before House of Wolves. Some of the pulse rifles can compete with hand cannons at an almost same level due to their damage and overall range values, and scouts should win at range versus all hand cannons due to the varying difference in weapon archetypes. The other fact of the matter is that the other hand cannons in the weapon class, technically the Timir's and Ill Will variants, can be just as potent with the right perk sets, both having the ability to 2-shot. The Fulcrum, Red Hand, and other legendaries akin to it can also 2-shot with the right perks, mainly Luck in the Chamber or a final round roll. So how can 2 hand cannons, the Last Word and Thorn, be overpowered, when other hand cannon variants can be just as deadly? If they nerf the Thorn and Last Word, or even the entire hand cannon archetype, the 2-burst pulse rifles, the Red Death Messenger's 3 little words, would immediately fill this void, creating a potentially never-ending nerf of all of our favorite weapons. A bit of a slippery slope is presented there, but the AR nerf, Mytho nerf, and the irrelevancy of fusion rifles, and you get the idea that this does exist. And while it may be an illogical fallacy in technicality, Bungie has shown the inability to patch certain weapons and instead dismantle an entire weapon class. Another important part of the counter-argument is time to kill. Now, the TTK in Destiny is very close to another popular FPS, Battlefield. And while both shooters are unique in their own ways, Destiny does not break the norms of time to kills as presented in COD or even Counter-Strike. Thus, the validity of 2-shot weapon classes, especially the Thorn and Last Word, are balanced when compared to the time to kill of other first-person popular shooters. Simply put, Destiny remains unique in its application of a quick TTK, but it has been present for years in other shooters. If Destiny wishes to remain a potential title for players of other FPSs to migrate to, it must be somewhat familiar in terms of time to kill. If Destiny saw an increase in time to kill, many newer players or other players from other games would feel unaccustomed to Destiny and may not enjoy its PvP aspects or continue to contribute to its population. The final word on the point of the argument is this. The Thorn and the Last Word share the limelight of being considered overpowered weapons, but other weapon types, such as the pulse rifles, share an almost identical time to kill, yet are rarely discussed with such vehemence, most likely due to the fact that players just don't see them enough. And the hand cannons are scrutinized because overwhelming majority use them in PvP. Now, this part of it is more of my personal opinion. Personally, when I first wrote the argument, the actual argument for the Thorn and Last Word being overpowered, I was convinced I couldn't argue against it, either because I didn't wish to or because my prejudice for the weapons and its users was too high. The weapons are clearly crutches, I thought to myself. How could I be infallible? But when you compare the Messenger or the Red Death to the hand cannons in question, you run into the same argument. They can kill and will kill you just as fast, and the one gives you an immediate recovery of health. Now, I've spent many years playing FPSs competitively. Now, I put that in air quotes because I've never been to any LAN events beyond EA showcases for Battlefield, which are largely casual and informal. I am not an MLG professional. I've only competed for a fabled $1.6 million Battlefield tournament that never came, on arguably one of the best, if not the best teams that played. That's it. I don't know how to balance Destiny. I'm not a developer. I don't know what it takes. I don't know what the player base feels. I only know that both sides of this argument have validity. By writing this, I honestly feel that I have a better understanding of both sides, and perhaps this will continue to fuel a moderate discussion on finding a compromise.